So let's start the .NET. What is .NET Core framework? So uh, .NET Core is basically a new version of the .NET framework, which was earlier present, which is already developed by the Microsoft team. So earlier, for the earlier versions, we are currently using the 4.8 version of the .NET framework. Now, the Microsoft has developed a new framework which is called as the .NET Core framework, which is a cross-platform open source and cloud enabled framework. Okay, so it is a cross platform framework which runs the applications on various operating systems like Windows, Mac and Linux. Okay, so whenever we are saying that this is a cross platform application, then it can run the application on the operating systems like Windows, Mac and Linux. In the earlier .NET framework, we were able to run the code in the Windows framework only. So there was no support for Mac and Linux operating system. Okay. That's why the new framework, which is a .NET Core, is called as a cross-platform framework. The next, the kind of applications which can be used or which can be created by using the .NET framework applications are the console apps, like the desktop applications you can create, mobile apps, web apps, cloud, IoT and gaming apps. So basically here the Microsoft has provided the platform to create the various kind of applications under the one roof only. So you don't have to download or you don't have to use the various platforms to create the different type of application in Windows or in Linux or in Mac OS operating system, right? So what do you mean by the cloud applications? Basically, the cloud applications are the software programs where a cloud base and the local components work together, right? So whenever you are having a browser or a web browser, so every time it connects with the internet, it connects with the cloud, the your server which is located into the cloud, and it will get data or fetch your request or send a request and get the response from that particular server. So that is called as the cloud applications. So next is the IoT applications. So basically IoT applications are the smart applications or the smart physical devices like the smart watches, which periodically used to send the data over the servers which are located somewhere in the cloud, right? So basically IoT are the physical devices which are used to send the data to the servers, right? So this kind of applications we can create by using the ASP.NET Core framework. Also, we can create the gaming apps, web and microservices in our .NET Core framework. So, what is the microservice? It is basically an approach to create a small services, right? So basically your service structure will be in a distributed manner that each service can have its own database. So basically every service will be calling their own database to get data or to fetch data from that particular tables, right? So we can create the microservices in the .NET Core framework. Also, we can create the machine learning or AI apps, right? So basically the AI apps are used to, the AI apps is basically used to give the accurate prediction, and these are used or these are programmed to learn by themselves, right? So they are the intelligent systems, right? So from the past experience or from the past iterations, they can grow themselves, they can learn themselves and they can improve themselves, and which will help to give them the accurate predictions. So these kind of apps we can develop by using the .NET Core framework, and which are the cross-platform, open source, and we can also create the cloud-enabled applications, right? So next is the .NET Core architecture or .NET Core features. Okay, so the .NET Core is written from the scratch to make it modular. Here the term modular is used. So basically the modular framework or the modular architecture means dividing your application or dividing your code or dividing your structure into the small architecture, which will help you to deploy, maintain and they test your application in a better way, which will also create the application will in a lightweight manner that helps to improve your performance, and which will be having or which will be having reach to the number of or more number of customers, right? It will serve the more number of customers, right? So next feature, which is the major feature provided by the .NET Core, is the NuGet package manager. So in earlier there was also the NuGet package manager, which is used to add the DLLs or the packages whenever they are required in your application, right? So in this way, if you wanted to add any package, then only the package will be added to your project. Okay, This NuGet or NuGet package manager concept we are going to cover in this session later, right? So next is the .NET application performance, which is improved by in a better way whenever you are using the modular, lightweight and cross-platform approach, right? So why .NET Core comes into the picture? So earlier days, we were having only the .NET framework, which was the native, which is used to run or deploy the native apps only. Here, the native apps means the applications which are created on the system or on the operating system will be running on the same applications only, right? In .NET Core, the .NET Core allows the developers to create the various types of applications, and these applications can be, or we can run these applications on variety of operating system. Suppose you are having a desktop application which is already created in the .NET framework, or you have uh, created the application in Visual Studio 12 or 15 with no .NET Core support. So this desktop application which is created in Windows operating system will run only on the Windows operating system, right? So if I wanted to use the same desktop applications over Mac and Linux operating system, this was not possible in the earlier framework. Okay, so the Microsoft has come up with the new feature which is called as .NET Core Framework. By using the .NET Core Framework, we can deploy the same application in Windows, Mac and Linux operating system. So the .NET Core Framework provides you the runtime to deploy or to support these kind of applications in variety of operating systems. Okay, so the both .NET Core and .NET Framework supports the languages such as C Sharp, F Sharp and VB, right? So most of you will be familiar with the C Sharp language. So we will be using the C Sharp language in this session only. Okay. So basically the .NET Core is developed by the Microsoft to support the languages which are already present in the .NET framework and which can be able to create the variety of applications or the wide range of applications. So the applications or the variety of applications can be created under the one roof only. These applications which we have already discussed, like console application, mobile apps, web apps, cloud, IoT, gaming apps, microservices and machine learning apps. These all types of applications we can create using the .NET Core framework. Okay. Now what are the .NET Core features? So first characteristic of the .NET Core is it is a open source framework. So what you mean by open source? Can anyone of you can please tell me what do you mean by the open source framework?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Open source means it is available like for everyone. It is free of cost.
Okay,
Source code is available on Git and anyone can modify it and anyone can enhance it also. It is free. You can do
yes,
customization on that source code.
correct.
Yeah,
So
open source in
basically,
the sense we can make use of all the features to get a practice about the same, and then we can get into the some other versions uh, by using the community version we can switch to some other if you want enterprise, or it's a kind of a test we can use.
yes, correct. We can use the existing framework as well as we can contribute to that framework, and
Yes.
you can make or you can make the changes or you can make some bug fixes, and you can directly contact with this community, and you can contribute in the development process. So Microsoft has purposely kept this framework as an open source to attract the large audience, or the to so that the number of people or the more number of people can use the same framework, and they can improve or they can customize the framework accordingly, right? So next is okay, so first is the .NET Core is open source framework maintained by Microsoft and which is available
Git.
on GitHub under the free license, right? So you can view, download, contribute to the source code using the following GitHub repositories. So first is the language compiler platform. So if you click on this link, so you will be able to get the compiler platform related files classes in this particular URL. Okay, so what do you mean by the compiler? So can anyone of you tell me what do you mean by the compiler?
Compiling the source code in the machine language, the language the machine can understand.
Right. So there are various parts of the .NET Core environment or .NET Core framework which are available as a open source, and this on this for this platform you can contribute here, right? So the code is available for language compiler, then .NET Core Runtime, .NET Core SDK, and .NET ASP.NET Core repository. So basically, the what is .NET Core SDK, what is .NET ASP.NET Core? These terms we are going to cover in the next or upcoming chapters, right? So what do you mean by the .NET Core runtime? The .NET Core runtimes are the smallest content and the specific components which will help us to run the .NET specific programs on the platforms such as Linux, Windows, and macOS operating system. For the every platform, there can be native runtimes which will help us to make us to run your applications. So basically the .NET Core runtime will help us to run your applications. So SDK will provide you the framework or libraries or tools to create the .NET applications and libraries. Okay. So next characteristics of .NET Core is the multi-platform framework. As we have already discussed, we can develop an application which can run on the multiple platforms. Okay, that earlier we have discussed that we can create a desktop application which can be deployed on these systems. So you don't have to create separate applications for Windows, for Mac, and for Linux operating systems. So in earlier versions or before .NET Core, we have to create a separate application for Windows, Mac, or Linux operating systems, right? So there are the different whenever we are going to deploy such applications, build that applications, there are the different runtimes provided by the .NET Core framework which will execute the code and generate the same output for every platform, right? In this way we can achieve the multi-platform characteristics of or the multi-platform feature of .NET Core, right? So next is the consistency across the architecture. So whenever we are saying the architecture consistent application, that means that the same application will not be having any impact or will run smoothly in the 32-bit, 64-bit and ARM processors or ARM architectures. The output we will be getting by or in the architecture defined here will be the same. There will not be any impact. So the consistency is the major characteristic of the .NET Core framework, right?
So it means the system, if .NET ASP.NET Core system we have developed in 64-bit will work on prior version, means 32-bit also.
Yes, of course.
Without
Using
any
the .NET Core framework.
without any dependency or without any installing anything others.
Yes, yes, right. So next is the wide range of applications. As we have already discussed, we can create the variety of applications by using the .NET Core, right? So next is the language support. So language which are used in .NET Core are C#, F#, and VB, right? So IDE. So which of the IDEs you are currently using? Is it Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code?
Visual Studio.
Visual Studio.
Okay. So basically, when we are going to develop the applications, we will be using the Visual Studio. I have installed Visual Studio Community version and Visual Studio Community version, and I have Visual Studio 2022 edition. So, uh, if you can download the community version, which is free and available on the internet, so this will help us to create the .NET Core applications, and by default there is installed .NET Core 6.0 version, so you don't have to deploy, or you don't have to install the version separately on your computer. If you are using Visual Studio 2022, it will be automatically available inside your Visual Studio, right?
So I'm sorry to disturb you. Uh, .NET Core's latest version is at 6.0, right?
Right.
And ASP.NET Core also 6.0, or it is different?
uh, ASP.NET Core is also 6.0. ASP.NET Core is the web development platform, right? So we are going to cover that topic in these sessions only. So basically, the .NET Core is the framework provided by the Microsoft, and the .NET ASP.NET Core is the web application development framework which comes under the .NET Core, right? So we can create the web applications by using the ASP.NET Core. Understood?
Yes.
Okay. So just like the ASP.NET Core, ASP.NET, there is the ASP.NET Core, which will be help us to create the web applications, right? So next is the, you can also use Visual Studio Code for the development of your applications. There are other editors like Sublime, Vim, which is currently free, and the JetBrains, which is having the 30 days of free membership, and after 30 days you have to pay something to use this particular IDE. Okay. So next is the modular architecture. As we have discussed, the modular means the applications is divided into the smaller parts or the smaller portions for the better deployment, fast performance, and better unit testing, right? So what is mean by modular? Already we have the NuGet package manager, which is used to install the SDKs or the packages in your application, right? So I'm going to show you how you can add the packages in your application. Just a second. So here I have created one .NET Core application or the console application, and now I am going to add some packages into this particular solution or this application. So now I wanted to add the newtonsoft.json in your in our application. You can add the other packages as well. So now I don't have the package which is the newtonsoft.json. So what I will do, I will use the package manager. So in the package manager, there are two ways to add any package into your application, right? So first way is to go to the tools menu. Hello, hello.
Yes, yes.
Actually, my voice was echoing, right?
Now it is correct.
Okay, thanks. So what I will do, I will go to the tools menu, then I will go to the NuGet package manager. Now there will be two options to add the packages in your solution or in your application, right? First is the package manager console. So I will select the package manager console here. Now at the bottom of this page, the console will open. It is currently initializing the screen.
PowerShell.
Yeah,
PowerShell tutorials also we want.
you need PowerShell tutorials, right? Okay.
Because everywhere it is getting used in SharePoint also in .NET everywhere, right?
Yes.
SharePoint
Right.
is heavily using this PowerShell.
Okay. ठीक देखते हैं. Next is the once we have initialized the screen of the package manager console, then you can write the command install. So basically the install command which will help you to install the package in the system. Okay, so this is the syntax, and then you have to specify the package name here. Okay, so in this case I wanted to add the Newton soft.json package. In your case, you might be requiring mysql.data or mysql.data.entity framework package to be installed in your solution. So you can directly use this command and then the name of your package to install that package in your application, right? So next is you have to press enter. If the package is already installed, it will display the message that this package is already installed, or if not, then the package will not get installed. In my case, I have already installed the NuGet package manager. So here it is displaying the version that the 13.0.1 version is already installed in your system. So here the version 13.0.1 is mentioned. So why there is the dot after the 13, after the 0? Can any one of you tell me why this is written like this? 13.0.1.
That is the minor and major version. Major is how you implement the packages of music. Suppose the older version was 13.0.0 and you have upgraded it. The company has upgraded it to a newer version. So it becomes 13.0.1.
13 is a version, I think, and 1 is a latest patch.
Yeah.
Correct. So basically 13 is the major version, then 0 or 13.0 is the major
latest.
version and 1 is the bug fixes or patches
Mm.
which are done in this particular version. If suppose this is 13.1.1, then 13 will be the major version. Then if this is 1, then this will be the minor version and 1 will be the patches, right? Okay.
Can you please repeat it again? What is the meaning of 13.0.1? Because I was reconnected.
Okay, no problem. So here I have installed the I have installed the newtonsoft.json package by using the package manager console, right? So this is in after installing, it is displaying me the version number over here. Here the number is 13.0.1, right? Basically, the first number represents the major version, right? Then the dot, then this particular numeric or this particular number represents the minor version, right? And the particular after the dot there is a number, say 1. So this indicates the patches which is containing in this particular package. So basically the major 13.0.1 will be the major, then 0 will be the minor release, or if there is a no minor release, that's why this is the 13.0, and 1 will be the patch or bug fixes, or this release will be, or this is the release which is received in this particular package, right? Understood?
Yes.
Okay. So when we the .NET Core has provided us the NuGet package manager, which will help you to add or remove packages on demand. So if there are the packages which we are not or which are not available, you can add it manually by using the package manager console, right? So here you can find the packages over here, right? So currently there are no packages available in this particular folder, right? So the amount of memory or amount of space required to store these packages or to publish these packages will be the less. So you can the load which is having on this particular app will be very less. So the application will work in an efficient and in a better perform will give you the better performance, right? So this is the modular approach supported by the .NET Core framework. So the next way to add the packages in your application is by using the package manager, right? So if we click on the package manager, it will show you the packages which we are already installed our systems. So if you click here, then it will show the current version, installed version. If the version which is not latest, then you can update the version over here. If you wanted to add some another packages, you can browse for the packages here. All right. So this is the second way of installing the packages in your system. So next major characteristics of .NET Core is the .NET Core CLI. So .NET Core command line interface is consisting of various commands which will be used to develop or create a new or build, publish your application, right? So this is the advanced feature which is available in .NET Core. Okay, so .NET, once the .NET Core CLI is installed with the .NET Core CLI, once it is installed by the .NET framework or along with the .NET framework only. So you don't have to install it separately on your development machine. Okay, so this particular tutorial or for this .NET Core command line interface and its commands, we will be having a separate sessions, that how we are going to build, how we are going to publish, we are going to create new application by using the CLI commands, right, in the .NET Core framework. Okay, so if we wanted to check that whether the CLI or CLI is installed in your system, we can check by using the command prompt. Are you able to see the command prompt on my system? Hello?
Yes,
Is
yes,
it visible?
yes, yes.
Okay. So if you just wanted to check whether the CLI is installed in your system, you can just write .NET in the command prompt and you can press the enter. Here it will show that the usage .NET and usage .NET and path to the applications. This means that the .NET CLI is already installed on your system. The .NET CLI part, we will be having a separate session, and in that session we will show you the various commands what are used in this particular CLI tool. Okay, so next is the flexible deployment. The .NET Core application can be deployed user-wide, system-wide, or with the cloud. So you can deploy the application in the system or self-system, then in the
Document is not visible.
okay, just a second. Now it's visible, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So
What is the can you can you come up again? What is the flexible document deployment? Sorry, flexible
yeah,
deployment.
we are going to cover. Just give me a second. So the flexible deployment means you can deploy the .NET Core application user-wide, system-wide, or with the cloud or in the cloud environment. So you can, once you have created the application, you can run it on your system. You can deploy it in the IIS, and you can deploy it with the cloud technologies. So basically we will be covering the deployment of the application in the Azure in whenever we are going to cover the Azure part, or whenever we are going to cover the cloud or deployment of the application in the Azure framework part, we will be discussing this particular deployment. The next is the deployment of the application in IIS server. So many of you might be familiar with the IIS deployment. If not, we will show you in this tutorial as well. Okay. uh, I think I have covered the flexible deployment part, right? So do you have any questions in this? Okay, got it. So next is the high performance. The Microsoft team ensures that the current created framework, that is the .NET Core framework, will be used by many of the developers, or it wanted to cover the large area of developers. That's why they have provided the option to create the application in various aspects like mobile apps, services. So all the applications or majority of the applications we can create by using the .NET Core framework, right? So to perform, or the performance can be a major aspect of your application whenever it is going to run in the production environment. So internally, .NET Core ensures that it will not take more time, or it will compress the time consuming processes which are earlier in the .NET framework, like serialization, compression, networking, and concurrency, which will work faster with .NET Core. So this will give you a better performance. So your application will be running smoothly in all of the environments, right? So next is the multiple environment and development modes. The .NET Core ensures that the configuration or app settings.json file will be different for development environment and for the production environment. So whenever you are going to publish any application, you will be getting two app settings files, one for development environment and one for production environment. So that part we will be also covering in our next or upcoming tutorials. Okay. So before that, if you see the .NET framework, there was only web config or app config files. So the same file you have to copy, and you have to if you have any URLs which are specified or any keys which are specified in the app setting, you have to change it for the development environment, and you have to change it for the QA or production environment, right?
If it is only two files, one for production and one for development, then what about UAT, or what about power?
You can make changes for that particular environment in the app settings.json file accordingly. So there are only two files provided currently. So these two files can be used for the different environments. It's just the separation of the files. So
Hmm.
you can change these uh, in your application, or you can change it in your by in your code as well, basically. So this, it is the separation of logic, or it is the separation of files in this particular area whenever you are going to publish those files, right? So next is use of microservices, right? So what do you mean by the microservices? Any of you are aware of this concept, microservices? Because .NET Core is providing the framework to create the microservices part.
Each
That
module, each and every module or each and every functionality is considered as a small little services, right? That
right,
services having their own database,
right,
and it is a independent from other service. If one service fail, it will not impact other services. It will not impact system. And if you want to deploy particular model, we need to deploy that particular service only, right? No complete deployment is required.
correct. So the .NET Core provides you the modular approach to create the microservices by using its framework, right?
Mm.
So you can create the microservices. Suppose you are having a 2 or 3 modules in your code, such as if you are having the application which is having a module such as ticket booking. So you are booking tickets for the flight, you are booking tickets for the bus, you are booking tickets for the movies as well. So in this aspect, the services which we are going to get data from the database will be different for every module, right? For bus booking, there can be a different vendors. So accordingly, the data can be different for each and every module, right? So to fetch this kind of data, we can be having, or we can be using the modular approach to get data from the database, right? So each service has its own responsibilities, and it will be getting the data from different, it might be getting the data from the different databases as well. So the .NET Core is going to support the modular approach to create the microservices. So whenever we are going to create a separate services, these services can be deployed on the same server, or they can be deployed on the different server as well. And these services can be created by using the mix of technologies to, which is the lightweight. Suppose you are creating a service in a different language, or in a different in a different platform, you can access that particular service in the .NET Core by using the .NET Core framework as well. So all of the points, or all of the features of .NET Core we have discussed in this particular session. So if you guys have any questions, or you guys have any queries, we can discuss this now.